This episode of the Buffalonian Podcast is brought to you by the Buffalonian division of the CastSource Podcast Network, a podcast network built by Buffalonians for Buffalonians, featuring the shows such as the Goatheads Podcast and the Buffalonian Podcast. We cover Bills, Sabres, and more, with more shows on the way very soon. And the CastSource Podcast Network covers many genres, including sports, business, mental health, marketing, and entertainment, featuring the podcast shows such as Sports Bring People Together, Limitless, Saviors of the Metaverse, and The Athletic Mindset. Learn more at castsource.com/podcast. And without further ado, let's get into the Bills, Sabres, hot takes, trivia, and more of the Buffalonian Podcast. All right, let's go.
We are back with the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Callie, and I am joined by Dom Loss on this fine, funky Friday when we're recording. Jordan Phillips resigns. Devin Levi's played 3 games as an NHL goaltender now, and got some past their prime Hall of Fame for you. I'll be taking that. But let's start off here with the very minimal Bills talk. I want to say, at least we've had in a very long time on the docket, just because of the offseason blunder, which we were not ready to be reminded about, but here we are. And in signing news, as I said, Jordan Phillips has resigned. Dom, just general thoughts on this resigning. I'm for it. I like it. But what are your thoughts?
I like it. I don't love it. I'm gonna push back a little bit. I mean, I think
you don't want some more of it.
Yeah. I mean, he has moments, but those moments are very far, in between. He had a really great game against the Rams, and after that, he was just battling through injuries throughout the year. So I think the hope is maybe if he could stay healthy, which really he hasn't been able to do throughout his career, that he can, put together a whole now 17-game season plus playoffs and be a, wrecker in the middle of the defense. But I mean, he got injured with the hamstring on the Matt Milano interception, got injured late chasing Mac Jones at the end of a 3-score game that ended up blowing out his rotator cuff, which basically made him a one-arm DT, and we all saw what happened to that, when he started to play. He was very ineffective. So I just think Jordan Phillips has always been one of those guys that talks, hypes up the crowd, talks about game, fan favorite, but at the end of the day, his on-field production really doesn't match what I think he thinks what he values himself to be. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I do like it. I think he brings a good energy to the defense, minus the torn rotator cuff. I mean, that would put a damper on anybody, I feel like. But you're right in the fact of it's not necessarily a love, but I mean, I think just keeping somewhat similar to what we have had is going to be good, and especially we got to see how everything happens with McDermott calling the plays, how different it's going to be and whatnot, and Ed Oliver, question mark, after that Instagram post a couple weeks ago. No one knows what's going on with that. And Von Miller, hopefully returning with Greg Rousseau, is going to make a difference too. So I think that'll add to it. Would I like to see him healthy for a lot more games? Absolutely. Hopefully the injury bug doesn't bite as hard right away and take guys out for the rest of the season. But now, speaking of the defense here, does Mr. Shaq Lawson, does he make a return? That's the burning question a lot of Bills fans are asking, that you clearly ask because it's on the docket for today. But what do you think?
If he wants to make $1.77 million or whatever Brandon Beane's kind of been offering people, sure. I mean, it just seems like they're kind of content with running it back with the D-line room, which is a little, I don't know if upsetting is the right word, but seeing how they just face planted a little bit at the end of the year, it's a little concerning. I think a lot of it they believe is injuries. You saw the DT room with Phillips returning. Like, he was banged up. Oliver was banged up. Daquan Jones ended up being banged up. Tim Siddle even missed some time. So I feel like they're running it back there because they believe they can, if those guys stay healthy, that's a good room. And then the edge, I just think they need another body until Vaughn comes back. And if they believe that Boogie and AJ can kind of hold down the fort. There goes my mic. If Boogie and AJ can hold down the fort
You could take a second if you want. We'll pick up
right.
from you talking.
No,
You
it's all right. I
good?
got it. I'm okay. I'm holding it.
Okay.
If they think that Boogie and AJ can hold down the fort next to Rousseau, and Rousseau can kind of have a breakout first couple months to be that number one true pass rusher till Vaughn returns, and also they could slow Vaughn's recovery when he comes back in, not to rush him. I think Shaq would fit the bill of a guy, veteran, beloved in the locker room, and can play a little bit, and would be cheap. Same kind of deal with Philip, though. Probably values himself a little bit higher than he's actually worth, though.
Yeah, I think the self-worth is definitely above what's actually, like the financially correct. So I think I'm kind of with you on that. And if he wants to come back for what Bean's been offering, sure. But if not, if he's like valuing himself way too high, I think you got to let him walk. I would like to see the defensive line come back in kind of the same stature and whatnot, because it will be interesting with McDermott kind of taking over. I still think, as I said, and you know, if it is a more aggressive style defense, that'll be interesting to see who gets through, who gets the pressure on and whatnot. But there's a lot of question marks, as I said, at Oliver too. We don't know, and it's just the money is the problem. As they say, more money, more money, more problems, and we've got less money, so we have more problems. So we don't really abide by that standard very well. But the cap is really, really having us kind of struggle on who to bring back and whatnot. Or is there anyone? Let me just get your thoughts on Ed Oliver real fast. Like, what are you thinking? I think he's kind of in that boat of valuing himself really high, and then he's not going to get that kind of money from the Bills.
I mean, yeah, he's had moments. That stretch when he played really well. I think he had like 10 pressures against the Vikings. Had a nice game against the Browns. Had the safety against the Lions. Yeah, he has moments of real great play, but again, he's very inconsistent. He's a little small. He was banged up a lot last year, and he's also one of those guys. And I love Tremaine. Tremaine also is one of those guys that would always kind of need, like you saw it last year when they finally had like big bodies in front of him. He took off to keep himself clean in the run game, and that's really was the big thing for him. It's kind of the same thing with Ed. It feels like he kind of needs someone beside him that can kind of fit a role of, taking on some blockers so he could kind of do what he wants to do.
Right.
But at that point, is he really making people better? I hesitate to say yes to that. I think that's a little bit of the problem with Ed. It seems like he needs a certain piece around him rather than be the piece, if that makes sense.
No, it does. He's not, Marcel Darius, if you will. Like, he was a problem for the team. I'm not sitting here saying he was a godsend for the Bills, but that guy was big, would power through, and he was the guy. And then you're absolutely right in the fact that Oliver kind of needs guys around him to be the guy with him. You know what I mean? So it definitely makes sense. But looking now towards the NFL draft coming up very, very soon, maybe we'll do another draft special like last year with the first pick. I mean, we'll have to see on that one. But the Bills there's been a lot of chatter over the past couple of days whether or not the Bills stay at pick 27. Thank you, Miami, for giving us that one extra pick. And or do they move up? Do they trade away something to move up? And what are I guess I wouldn't be opposed to that necessarily. It would be kind of dependent on if they get Bijan Robinson right away, I'm still going to be very mad. Like, I don't see that as an option at all. But like, if they were to move up, who would you want them to grab out of those top 10 picks necessarily? Say they moved up to pick 7, like where they got Josh Allen. Who would you want them to grab?
No way they would move that far up.
No? Where do you think they move up to?
Way. I don't know.
You think like 15?
20? I think from my mind is that since they believe they're going to get the 3rd round comp pick from Tremaine, I really think it allows them to be more viable to trade up by moving a 3rd round pick, knowing that you're going to probably get one back. So I think that's why they're intrigued. I always thought they would trade down, because I think, I would assume I thought they might want more picks, just for the sake of it. But I think the roster's so good now with all the depth signings they've had especially if they had Shaq back to the mix too.
Right.
It's interesting. I would say they would probably trade up to pick like 20, so like 7 spots. And then at that point,
Yeah.
they said they speculated ESPN that they would trade up for an offensive tackle or skill position. So, is Jackson Smith-Jigga still on the board? I would say probably not. Maybe Jordan Addison. I'm not a huge fan of him. I just feel like you could get like a day 2 receiver that's like can probably do the same kind of things and a little bit bigger. And don't have to worry about like injury concerns. And then maybe they trade up for an offensive tackle. I think that could be a possibility. I think the Bills have spent a lot of time studying offensive tackle Senior Bowl. They were notably very in tune with that. A lot of their, scouts have been at the pro days of the big names offensive tackles. I do believe that they believe right tackle. I mean, Justin Josh got injured from the right side, and I think they value the need at right tackle a lot more than people would think, and a lot more than I think linebacker. To be honest, I think this news. Now, this might not be true, and they might trade down and take Jack Campbell. They take Jack Campbell at 27,
Right.
but I think if this news is to be true, it just seems to me that they trust in house on linebacker, or they're going to draft someone later in the draft. And they don't view it as big a need as I think many people might have it listed as number 1.
Yeah. No, I would 100% agree with you. A lot of people are pushing for the baby Gronk or whatever from whatever his name is, Little Gronk. I don't know exactly, but
Gronk,
from Notre Dame, Mike Mayer. Yeah. I would, if they learned how to utilize receiving tight ends, Ken Dorsey, I would love that. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, we're paying one top tight end money. We're not even using them that way. So I think that's the big thing right now. Lost my headphone. There we go. And then, I mean, I would like to see him kind of move up, I guess, but you're right. I mean, Jigba's the dream, but if he'll be there or not is the question. But I wouldn't mind an offensive tackle or right tackle either. A linebacker, whatever. I think it's just BPA at this point, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. Like that's still a need pick necessarily, but it's not like last year where, okay, we need a cornerback. You know what I mean? Like it's not like one position where it's like a need. Best player available at a position you need. So I think that'll kind of be the way they go.
Yeah,
Moving up, I don't know.
I think they want to avoid showing their hand too
Yeah.
early, because I think they did a little bit last year, and that's why the Chiefs jumped them to pick McDuffie. I'm not going to say McDuffie would have been the pick if the Bills would have been on the board, but it's definitely a reason why you saw the Chiefs trade up ahead of the Bills, and then it's the reason why you saw the Bills trade up again. I mean, trade up to secure Elam.
Right.
So.
I mean, I love the draft moves, the sneaky draft moves like that. Like, give me more of them, please. The little deceitful ones, but it'll be interesting. Probably we'll have a draft special coming out where we sit through the first pick. I don't think we're going to put ourselves through the entire first round, or you listeners out there listening to us mumble on in between every pick.
No, we'll just do what we did last year. We'll react to the pick, and then we'll make instant analysis, and then we'll wait till after the draft, and we'll talk for 10 minutes and call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on that. I mean, we need a quicker pitch clock for the draft. Come on, not like 2 minutes. Like let's bring it down to like 5 minutes. Let's bring it down to 2 minutes then, or like even a minute and a half. You get 90 seconds to make your pick. You should have that researched already. It's like a fantasy draft. Come on, you should have that fixed. But now just looking broad NFL before we get to Dom's fun surprise, which I have no idea what that is, but predictions for Lamar Jackson. Okay. The Twitter world, the Twitter warriors are out on Lamar Jackson. Teams that are bad are out on Lamar Jackson. The Commanders don't need Lamar Jackson, I guess. They have Major Tutty as their mascot. That's the godsend for that team. But where do you think, if he goes anywhere, he'll end up? Because now, here's my take, all right? Rodgers is now being rumored over in the 49ers, San Francisco. Right, but I don't think the Packers would let him go in division. But say that happens, I think the Jets move for Lamar Jackson at that point. I think the whole Rodgers thing to the Jets is asinine. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, because you get 1 to 2 good years out of him when you should be getting a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and building a team around him, which the Ravens struggled to do, wide receiver rise, and he had Mark Andrews. That's really it. So I think
I'm saying right now they're not going to get Lamar. They're not going to get Lamar.
I know.
They signed Lazard. Like you have to change your entire offense around Lamar, and I don't think the Jets are going to do that. But I would
Right.
say, yeah, especially because they got Hackett as their offensive coordinator, so I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to
that's
do
Rodgers.
that. But I would say if it's pre-draft Colts, because I think if they did the fourth overall pick for Lamar straight up, I think the Ravens would take it. If it's after the draft, I would say Lions, because I think the Lions might be waiting until after the draft, because I think they have a top 10 pick, and then they have another solid pick of their own, and they might be thinking, let's draft really high these next 2 years, this year, and then we'll trade 24 and 25 first round picks for Lamar. We still get Lamar, but we keep our good picks this year and improve the roster. And now in 24 and 25, we may be at, NFC contenders, and it's going to be pick 27 that we trade two pick 27s in the first round next 2 years after this one. So I think if it's pre-draft, it's Colts, because they had the fourth overall pick, and I think they would do it. But if it's after the draft, I would say the Lions should be the favorite.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with the Colts. I want to say I think that might be the best move there. Mr. High school head coach Saturday is gone. It's kind of, you can fix yourself, get things going there, get Matt Ryan out of there. He's gone, isn't he? Or is he still on the team?
I think they cut him. I'm pretty sure. I'm not too sure though. Can't be 100%.
Now, I have one question for you. So we were talking about the draft and whatnot, right? The first overall pick was traded to the Carolina Panthers from the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
Who are they? Like Frank Reich stepping in as the new head coach there. You're going to try and get that team actually played well last year in some games, most games, with their backups. Now, quarterback is the question mark there, right? Because you lost Sam Darnold now. He's gone. And Baker Mayfield also gone. And you have, who's the one who threw the Hail Mary? They still have him, right?
I don't think PJ Walker's on the team anymore.
No, okay. So they're starting from scratch. Do they take Richardson with the first pick, you think, in the freak athlete kind of mentality? You think they take CJ Stroud, really?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think Richardson goes in the draft?
I think he's going to be
the pick number wise.
I think he's going to be the fourth quarterback off the board. I think he's going to be like 7.
I'm only asking because some reminiscence there of our one and only bionic man, Josh Allen. So I just wanted to get your take on where he'd fall to. But what's this fun surprise? If you have anything else.
So I'm a little bit, draft oriented, whatever, from last week. So the fun surprise is this, because there wasn't a lot to talk about this week for the Bills. So I was like, I'll put a fun exercise in.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I, Joe, are going to have to pick a team together, the best team possible. We had to pick a quarterback, a running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, DB. We had to go, but the caveat is we had to pick one player from every decade. So 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
All NFL? Just like broad NFL?
Bills.
All Bills. Okay. All right.
I
was going to say, that's
too easy.
That's okay. All right.
Let's start
all
from
Bills.
Let's start from the 60s. I think the 60s pick is. I think the 60s pick.
Oh, no. Okay. I thought you were going quarterback all the way down. I was
no.
60s quarterback.
That's really confusing. I'd say we just go from 60s to 2020s.
Okay.
I think the 60s pick is easy. I think we take Billy Shaw, the offensive line Hall of Famer. I think him or Joe DeLaminor, but I think Kent Hall is very good, but he's in the 90s, and there's better players in the 90s. There's just better players and where the other good offensive linemen are. But the 60s, I can't, Cookie Gilchrist, I think was a fullback. We could have picked Joe D, but 70s. I think this.
I have a soft spot for Joe DeLaminor. I'm okay with Shaw. I am. I like that.
70s. I think this one's easy too, but I want to see what you say.
70s. What position are you thinking?
I think it's obvious what position I'm taking. The juice.
Yeah, O.J. Simpson.
I just think you had to take OJ in the 70s because there's not a lot of great options still, unless you want to take Joe D, but we already took Billy Shaw. And the other options, was Thurman. But again, Thurman's in the 90s, and I think you could pick a better player that.
Right. Like Don Beebe, like I did,
Yes. So then we get to the 1980s, and this is where I
Okay.
think we may have to skip.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't.
we may have to skip the 80s and 90s because there's so many options that we could go to. Well, I think we have to, if we want to pick the best team possible, we may have to wait. But I just need to see one thing.
Skip the 90s, skip the Super Bowl team too.
That's just hard because this is my thought. This is my thought process. One of the picks is Bruce Smith.
Yes.
Has to be. All right. So we have Bruce Smith. Now we can either pick 80s Bruce Smith or 90s Bruce Smith. I say we skip and go to the 2000s and come back to the last pick and pick, depending on who we pick afterwards.
Gotcha. I'm
Okay.
on board with that. Yep.
So we got QB, wide receiver, tight end, defensive back. 2000s. See, this is where it gets really challenging because tight end is bad.
EJ Manuel.
He's 2010s. This is where it gets bad. I think 2020s. We picking Josh.
Oh yeah, no question. Yeah, he's
All
our
right.
quarterback. No, we're gonna pick Trent Edwards in the 2000s, please. Let's.
Well, I
just
think
do
we might
that.
go swing back for Kelly, but no. Okay, 2010s. I think 2010s. I think we got to pick D-back. Because, wide receiver, what, we picking Stevie? No. Tight end, there's really not an option.
Well, cornerback, I
2010s,
think.
we could do
I
Gilmore.
think Trey White's in the conversation.
Yeah, Gilmore, Trey White, Hyder Poyer. Even Jarius Byrd had an all-pro season, I think, before he went to New Orleans. I think this is hard. I don't know whether to go. I think we'll go Trey White.
Yeah,
He
I
has
think
he has 2 all-pro teams, I think.
yeah. Even with his injury, I think we gotta stick with him.
All right. So we have the 2000s, and then we have one of the 90s or 80s left, and we have tight end and wide receiver. Tight end is impossible. I'm telling you, it is impossible to pick. I think our best option. I don't even know. I'm gonna butcher this dude's.
Are you about to say Scott Chandler?
No, it's Pete. Oh my god, I gotta look it up. I'm gonna butcher it, but I gotta look up the pronunciation. Pete Metzelaars is the all-time leader in everything Bills for tight ends, and he played in the late 80s and 90s. I think we go Pete Metzelaars and have Bruce be the 90s Bruce, who was a freaking beast, 2-time defensive player of the year, and then 2000s wide receiver. I gotta make sure this guy played before I just expose myself here.
Before you blurt it out. Let's see.
Oh yeah, okay, I know the pick. Do you have an option, or do you want me to say mine?
Let me double check. Let me double check right now. I'm doing some research. Really
changed his name.
I mean, I would have to say Eric Moulds.
I agree.
Okay. All right, Eric
team.
Moulds. That's actually pretty good team out of a couple drought era players, or one.
Yeah,
we only have one drought era player.
It got a little challenging, but we survived.
The tight end was the only challenging spot, truthfully.
Yeah, tight end was challenging. So the final team that we have: quarterback 2020s Josh Allen, running back 1970s OJ, wide receiver 2000s Eric Moulds, tight end Pete Metzelaars 80s, offensive line 60s Billy Shaw, defensive line 90s Bruce Smith, and defensive back 2010s Trey White. So there you go. Little surprise exercise.
That was honestly though, that team doesn't sound half bad. I'd take that right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. But we'll have to do more of those. After we did the draft episode, you're right. I mean, that was cool. I got some downloads too, by the way, so the people liked it. So we'll do some more fantasy drafts for you. But that's gonna do it for this edition of the Bill. Oh, not this edition. The Bills talk for this episode of the Buffalonian podcast. And we're going to roll in the Sabres. But before I do, I want to bring up the Sports Bring People Together podcast. You should listen for entrepreneurial conversations with those in sports. And who knows where the chats will take you, but sports got us all here together in the first place. Find this show wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts or simply visit sportseplus.com.
And now onto our still staying alive Buffalo Sabres. Somehow. I don't know how. Last night was interesting. Won in an overtime shootout. Devin Levi put up some numbers. But let's talk about that for a second. Okay, let's start out with Devin Levi. We were at the debut against who were they playing against when we were there?
The Rangers.
The Rangers, that's right. And that little teaser into my who's past their prime Hall of Fame later, but we'll get to that. Devin Levi blew everyone away. I'm going to be like, could not have wanted that to go any better. Marty Baron got taken out of the first game he started as a Sabres goaltender. Was Ryan Miller ever sent down to Rochester?
I think he was close. I think his first two games, Ryan Miller had like an 820 save percentage his first two games.
Yeah.
So he did not play very well.
No, neither him or Baron did, and Levi did. So I'm not saying that immediately is like a huge difference between them, right? Because it's like football. You can fumble your first touch and then be a Hall of Famer at the end. You never know, or you could be fantastic in the beginning and then poop the bed. But I think we've got a positive look for the future for sure, especially him being so young and excited to play here. I mean, the guy literally in an interview goes, "Let the beast out of the cage." Like, who says that? Like that's an absolute animal of a human being right there. And I could not be happier that he is on our team. And I think, honestly, the goaltending, we've talked about it from the beginning. I remember we talked about it a couple of weeks ago before he was like here with Evan Harrington when he joined. We were like, Levi, he's going to be here next year. He'll play down in Rochester. And now he's starting in the end of the season push. More like the end of the season with the Walker getting towards the playoffs. But what are your general thoughts on the debut, having been there, the Levi chants coming from, and then the Jedi meditation we saw in person?
Yeah, I didn't know he did that, to be completely honest. That was very, very sick routine. He made that one save on Kako where he dove across and he got there in plenty of time when my mouth was literally on the floor. You don't want to be on the floor at a Keating Center, but
you were licking up the peanut shells on the floor.
Yeah, I was licking up the dirt, but it was really exciting, and to win in overtime that way. It was kind of unfortunate that it got to overtime just because I thought. But, I mean, the Sabres did a really good job the first two periods, and then the third period, they kind of did what they normally do, and they kind of sat back a little too much. And the Rangers really dominated them in the third period, but Levi stood strong. He made two huge saves on Panarin in the slot, like one with like 2 minutes left in the game, and one actually right in overtime right before Skinner scored. So, I mean, he was sensational. I mean, he was sensational against I give UPL credit. He was very good against the Flyers as well. I think he saved 38. He had 38 saves. That he played very solid. And then Levi gave them a shot to win against the Panthers. I think it's a frustrating loss, 2-1. We've talked all along that I'd say the number one reason why the Sabres will not be playing in the postseason. I know they have like a 1% chance, but it's a 1% chance. Let's be honest. Is goaltending, and it's frustrating that they actually get good goaltending in a huge game. And they have their chances and they get goalied by Alex Lyon. Like, how? But
that was very frustrating.
I just think I will say this. Everyone needs to just take a breath and just enjoy the moment with this kid. Because everyone is kind of like, oh my God, put him in pen for next season. And it's like, all right, you can put him in for pencil. Don't put him for pen, because he had a rough game last night. I'm not saying it was all his fault. I mean, he had some very unlucky moments, but I would still say the first two goals were, not great to give up. The fifth, he got unlucky with the one going off power. The third goal was an amazing play. The fifth goal, while it was a turnover by Lyubushkin, he didn't make the play better. It's kind of like, what we say in volleyball, you had to better the ball. If some dude shanks it and you shank it, you didn't better the ball. Like, he went out too far and got beat. And then the sixth goal, he has to come up with that save, if we're going to be honest. Like, that was savable. I think sometimes you see it with him is that he's so aggressive where sometimes it comes back to bite him. Like you saw with the 6th goal, he slid so far that he was out of position and not ready for the slapper to be in the opposite corner. You saw it with the 2nd goal where he slid too far and he got 5-hold. So I mean, there's stuff to work on for him. I mean, it's tough because if you look at his first 3 games, he has under 900 save percentage. He has an 899 save percentage. And it's like, that's not very good. But then you look at it and be like, well, he had 2 amazing games and he had 1 bad game. But at the end of the day, in the bad game, he came up big to help win the game. I mean, he made the 2 saves in the shootout, made the save in the breakaway in the overtime, came up with some nice saves too throughout the way. It wasn't his best night. He got a little unlucky as well. But he came through when the team needed him. They got the big save when they needed to get the big save last night. So it's very exciting. Again, I would just say slow down expectations a tad. This isn't a guy that should just be given the reins to be playing 50, 55 games next year. I think it is incredibly important that the Sabres have to add a significant piece to goaltending next year, because it's playoffs or bust. And you can't go in with Levi, Comrie, and UPL. And if Levi struggles and he's down in Rochester, then we're stuck with Comrie and UPL again. You just can't do that. So I think everyone needs to just enjoy these last 5 games and think about next season a couple months from now. Just give it a little bit of rest. Just enjoy what we're watching.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's more of an off-season conversation than anything. Let's watch them have fun and win. And maybe if everything crumbles around them and they win out, sneak in, right? Very wishful thinking, of course, but everything crumbles around them. They do still have a 1% chance, but someone should probably tell him what happens to Qui-Gon Jinn moments after he does that meditation. That might be smart. But what do we call him? Do we call him Obi-Wan the goalie? Darth Levi? Like what are we calling him? Like what's the Jedi name for him? You know, like red and blacks, it's got to be Darth Levi. I feel like you kind of have to.
I don't know.
Maybe Obi-Wan the goalie. It doesn't
pronounce his name. It's like Dev Von Levi. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know that. We'll workshop that. Let us know. Hit the Instagram. Hit the Twitter.
I'm not gonna lie, so I don't.
Hit us on the Instagram and Twitter. Let us know.
I think he's played well enough these 3 games where if he plays well the next he should really have the crease. I think he should start 3 of the next 5 games, in my opinion. If he plays well enough on the stretch and has a good camp, I think he's earned the ability to potentially skip Rochester. But I still think to me, it's I don't want to say I don't know. It's still like 50-50. Like I still think there's a 50% chance where he's going to be in Rochester to be next year, and there's a 50% chance he's in the NHL. I would say before I'm signing, I thought it was going to be like a 10% chance he's in the NHL. Just because I thought
if you said before he signed that he'd play right in the NHL, everyone would have called you crazy. But now I feel like it's not. You're not crazy to think that.
But it's conceivable, but things have to go the Sabres' way. Like the Sabres have to add another significant goalie piece for me to feel comfortable with that. But talking about another,
if you put UPL or Comrie to waivers, do you think they'd get claimed? I think UPL would just age-wise 100%. Get claimed.
They would both get
claimed. Comrie would, you think, too?
Comrie's interesting because Comrie's pretty cheap, so maybe not. I know, I'm sorry. Yeah. Comrie's cheap, so it might be, but he's also kind of a backup. I don't know. He's interesting. UPL 100% get claimed by someone. I mean, some team needing
a depth goalie.
He's a guy that you can throw a dart at and see, but yeah, I think he gets claimed. So transitioning a little bit. Owen Power. The dude had just passed the 30 assist threshold, is top 2 this season in WAR among rookies, and no one talks about him. Like, I'm sorry, like even we have really I don't remember the last time we had a discussion about Owen Power, and I
think maybe when he started his 8 games last season. I think that was the last full-on Owen Power discussion we
talked about him for the season, but I mean, I don't remember us having a serious conversation about him, and he's one of those guys that. We talk about Levi being, should we have high Power was a guy that had amazingly high expectations going into the season. And all of us were like, all right, it's 8 games. Like once people get a scouting report on him, maybe, he starts to struggle. And yeah, I would say he's, for a little bit of a
He's had
month
his
there, we lost.
moments.
Yeah, I would say a little bit for like about a couple week stretch there, we lost him a little bit. Just because he hit a little bit of the rookie wall. But now, I mean, he dominated that game yesterday.
Yeah.
Like his hockey IQ is absolutely insane. Just to create space for his teammates and himself. Again, the only thing missing in his game is a shot. Like if he had a good shot, like how dangerous he's going to be. So I think that's really exciting. Is he is as good as advertised. He is a legit top 4 D man. And starting next year, if he takes another jump, he could be a legit top pair D man.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I mean, a couple guys on this team are missing the shot, I think, and he's one of them. The gentleman we're going to talk about next is also one of them. Hear me out on that in a minute. But I think Owen Power is fantastic. I couldn't be happier with the way this season has gone for him and the way that he's established himself in the NHL. It's a dog eat dog world out there, and he's shown the hungry dog runs faster. He's big man out there. He's doing what he needs to do and helping this team defensively, where if you had asked me before the season, I'm like, oh, Darlene's going to carry the weight. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have put anything on Owen Power, and here he is. I mean, just killing it, and I couldn't be happier with that. But another man I mentioned might be missing his shot, but has been playing very well after really, really just like not doing it in the beginning of the season. And my opinion has changed on is Casey Middlestat, who his brother won in the Frozen Four last night, along with Luke Tuck too. So that was very, very interesting. But Mitzi, Casey Middlestat looks just like our friend Brecken, identical, and I am not opposed to keeping him on the roster. I think, honestly, he's developed some trade value for sure, right? In the way he's been playing. Like, we could trade him and get something in return for sure. But he's kind of, to me, like, shown he can be a solid third, fourth liner center and lead those lines and also be called up to the top lines when someone's down and play well. I mean, he's just missing that big one-timer. I think that's really it. And I think Granato's just got to let him know, hey, you have a shot. You just got to take it instead of whiffing 90% of the time. But what are your thoughts on our boy Casey Middlestat?
I think of Casey, if he get a shot, like people would not trash him as much because he puts himself in a lot of great positions. He just can't finish, which is really unfortunate. But I think early this season, I think a great point has been made that like the Sabres had a lot of people that thought they were top 6 forwards. And I think Casey Middlestat thought he was one of those guys. I've had a lot of skill going up, World Juniors, playing at Eden Prairie and all that. I think he's realized in the NHL level that like he can't rely just on his skill. Like he's a below average skater and he doesn't have an elite shot. But like can he has a good hockey IQ, good passing skills, and it's like how can you with being very skilled but maybe a lack of physical tools in the NHL, like how can you make an impact? And we've seen over the last half of the season him giving more of an effort on the walls. Like he's winning more puck battles than he's ever been before. Like usually earlier when he got pinned to the boards, like, all right, we're losing this puck. This sucks. Now it's like, oh no, Middlestat might be behind the puck battle, but he's actually going to come back and win the puck battle and then give us an opportunity to score or give an opportunity to clear his zone. So
right.
One of those guys that I think in my mind is still a third liner. He's still a third line player. But he's one of those guys that if you have an injury to Tage Thompson, if you have an injury to someone, can slide up, play center or wing, and play on the top 6 for a short amount of time and not be overwhelmed by the moment. So I think he's actually has a lot of value. I actually think, yes, if you trade him, you actually now get a significant, not significant, but you actually get an actual piece back, not just bag of chips. But
bag of pucks, as a lot of people said, yeah.
I think his most value is with the Sabres because his ability to both play center and wing, play in this high event game, and kind of just keep improving and keep being a solid. I mean, when it's all said and done, be a third liner, but he's also going to play with a lot of elite. It's not like the Sabres are going to not have a lot of talented players on the third line coming up. I mean, Coolidge, Savoy, like they're going to have some guys. Now, do I think when his contract is up, I believe after next year, is he can ask for too much? Sure. So I think at that point, like maybe it's like at the contract he has now, which is under $3 million, like I'd be willing to go up to maybe 4, but after that, I'm thinking I'm kind of out. So I think that's
Yeah.
where it'll get interesting with him with his contract. But right now, I mean, I would easily say it's hard because like I would say most improved. I mean, you could give it to a lot of people, but I would say most improved would probably be Cousins. But I think most
Yeah.
improved throughout the season from where they started, really, even the first half to second half split, like I think it's Middlestat because he wasn't an NHL player the first half of the year.
No, he was abysmal. Like just a
And now
black hole.
he's not even just a useful NHL player. He's a good NHL player now. And
Yeah.
listen, a lot of credit has to go with him because I mean we were bashing him. A lot of people in Twitterverse was bashing him. Like
The Twitter
people
warriors
still
coming after
bash him
Casey
because of what
Middlestat.
happened in the first half of the year. But I think people are starting to slowly now start to realize, like, hey man, this dude had 50 points this year. And I'm not the biggest point guy, but like him having 40 assists is 40 assists. And like I know some of them might be secondary, but like the eye test and the stats are starting to back up that this dude's playing at a very high level for now him accepting the role he's in of being a third liner, but potentially with injuries and situational play may get some looks at the top line.
Yeah, I mean, got to give some love to our boy Casey Middlestat out there. As much as we ourselves on here have. Dom even pulled up a graphic. I remember in the first half of the season where it's just everyone's got lines on a graph, production lines. Like Casey Middlestat's like nothing. Like we were going at him hard, and
good for him.
Yeah, he's performed, and I'm more than okay with that. If he's helping the team, stick around, man. And he's a locker room guy. Granato likes him a lot, so I think that also attributes to him staying too.
Teammate, yeah. I think I don't think now. I think a little bit interesting. I think Middlestat makes this offseason a little bit more troubling for Adams because it's like, all right, the 12 forward spots now. It's like now that you already kind of kicked out Olsen, it's like who is leaving from that lineup last night? And like I think maybe in a perfect world, Yost is like maybe your 13th, but even him like being a fourth line center is not bad. Oposo, I think you would want to say you'd want to transition to a front office role. And then Gergensons is like the interesting case of it. To me, it's really 50-50. Like he's been so good defensively this year, but he's not good offensively. Like he doesn't have a two-way game, but somehow he always has double-digit goals. So I think Gergensons is an interesting case of a 50-50, but I think you want a spot for Kulich and Savoy to battle out for one, and then you kind of want a second spot, I would say, just to potentially maybe upgrade off Yost or Gergensons, maybe a more, guy kind of like Middlestat, but maybe more defensive minding, if that makes sense. Guy that could be a third liner, but can also come up and play in top six. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation between those two. They're so they're so good in the locker room. It's kind of hard to be like, no, we can't bring them back, but you're just going to get younger at that point. But I think you have to open a spot for one of your young forwards, and then maybe try and upgrade off another one. So, I mean, I don't know. Is Greenway their move? I mean, Greenway, to his credit, has played very well since coming back from the injury that he was dealing with. So maybe a full season of Greenway is the upgrade on Gergensons, and then they have two spots for Kulich and Savoy. It's interesting because Savoy can't come over to the AHL, and Kulich can. I think that's going to be the big marker between them, is that I don't think another year in the juniors does a lot for Matt Savoy, and unfortunately, Kulich he could play in the AHL. So I think I don't know. I don't want to get too much into offseason talk, but
but
it'll be
I understand what
interesting
you're
to
saying.
see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on that. I don't want to push too far into, because then we're going to run out of content in the offseason. Then the listeners get gypped, and we don't want that. So we'll hold off on the offseason talk. But yeah, I think Middlestat definitely makes this conversation more interesting. The way he, like you said, ended up performing and whatnot, with Gergs and Okposo, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't know. I genuinely, I don't know. I think it's going to be more a time will tell situation, right? Like what Adams is thinking, because they're kind of cryptic on the way they do things. Like it's kind of like Granato's cryptic, Adams is cryptic. They don't really come out and say exactly what's happening. And it's interesting. But now question for you.
Yes.
What do you want to see in the last 5 games of the Sabres year?
Yes.
Do you want to see them having fun and playing? Do you have something else?
No. This is the last thing before predictions. I'm excited for this.
Oh, okay.
I would say for me, it's send
do you want
off
to see it like
Opposal.
last year?
I mean, sure. I want them to play well, but I would say not regarding team success because I don't want to be like, oh my god, they gotta go 4-1. I would say send off Opposal in a nice way because he's been the captain. He's been very solid. Send off Anderson in a nice way because both those guys I think are done. But be respectful of them. And I would say give some of the young guys a shot. Ryan Johnson, a guy that now is playing the national championship game, but he could be available to play the last couple of games of the year if they're interested in that. Kind of like what Owen Power did. I think that should be something the Sabres should look at. I think Yuri Kulich, Isaac Rosine, the guys in the AHL that have worked very hard all year. Like maybe reward them with a game or two at the end of the year. I would say I would look at that, especially now. I don't think they would do that until they're officially out, which could actually be Saturday. So until they're officially out, I don't think they're going to give the young guys a shot. But I think once they're out, I think the last game or two, get some other young guys in. I don't need to see. I love Yost. I don't need to see Yost if we could potentially see a game of Coolidge. I think giving them that experience like what they did to Levi, I think that's what I want to see.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with that. I like the whole Ryan Johnson thing you just described. Give him the Owen Power treatment. Bring him in for the last few games of the season. Because look at how that worked out, right? If they're ready, they're ready. And if you know that they can play in the NHL going into next season, I think that changes the whole ball game of where you put them going into next season. So it's like if you could get a preview and you're not going to really make the playoffs, say that right now with a 1% chance, experiment. Do what you did last season because look at these players now, like Owen Power, that have benefited from that, and the whole team in turn benefits from it. So I say go for it. Truthfully, I'm all for that kind of thing. And just don't play defense for Anderson in his last game. Don't let him have to have 50 saves and we lose 5-4. Please do not let that happen to that man. He's given too much. Okay, he was playing floor hockey with his kid, thinking he was done, and then he came back this year. So send him off in a good way. Okposo, you got to. He's been awesome. So a good captain.
We're going to speed run this because I know we have about 10 minutes left. So here we go.
No, you could.
The games left. They play Saturday home against Carolina. They're at the Rangers Monday, at the Devils Tuesday, home game of the year Thursday against Senators, away in Columbus. I assume we'll do one more pod before the finale.
Oh yeah.
I assume we definitely are. So I would say, I don't know, are we doing Wednesday or? Well, let's just say
for now. Safe for now. Yeah.
All right. So 3 games. What's your predictions record-wise?
I think they go 3-0. I think they hit a hot streak and go. I think going into the end of the season, they're hot and they go.
Okay, I think they're gonna go 2-1. So over the course of the last week, Dylan Cousins and Alex Tuch tied with goals of 3, and Dylan Cousins tied with points of 5. I unfortunately
each of us got a point.
Yeah, which is very tough. I thought one of us was going to get both, but that's tough. Joe, predictions now.
I'm going to go Tuch and Cousins. Same as this week. I think they've been playing pretty consistently, so I think they're going to stick with it.
I'm going to go Tage and Cousins because I think they're going to really push. He needs 5 goals in 5 games. It matters if he plays, of course, but I think they're really going to push the envelope for Tage to get to 50.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the Sabres talk. And now it's time for some Would You Rather, and I got one for you. So I've been watching a lot of Ted Lasso lately, right? Soccer show, Premier League. Could be an interesting podcast one day if we get one started up, But let's just talk for a second, because at one point in the show, they tell this guy, Jamie Tart, right? He's just a cocky player, right? They tell him stop being a prick, right? And pass the ball, right? But then he's forfeiting these huge scoring plays just to pass the ball. So then the signal is then this to be a prick. They do this to him and then tell him to score, right? Don't pass. So big game's on the line, right? Big game is on the line. Let's just say soccer terms, you're running down the pitch, right? You're on a breakaway. I don't know what the term for that is. I'm going hockey/soccer, right? Let's just go hockey. You're on a breakaway down the ice, right? And you think you can make this shot, but you also have, let's just say your cousin's skirting down the ice and you got Thompson on your left, right? Thompson's got the one-timer that makes all these shots, right? Do you attempt it yourself or hit the open man to your left to give them an opportunity, even when the time's clicking down? So would you rather pass or score? That's the question.
Well, I'll just put it this way. Tage Thompson is significantly better than me.
Would you rather be the team guy?
Tage Thompson is significantly better than me.
All right. Just say two equal players.
Okay. 2 equal players?
Okay,
I'm shooting.
Let me rephrase.
I'm shooting.
Okay,
I mean,
you're shooting.
If it's time's going down, you can't go without a shot. So, I mean, I can pass it and it gets tipped away and we never get a shot on that. Like, I think you got to shoot it if you have a good shot. Feel confident.
Okay. Yeah. As much as I'd like to be a team guy, I feel like if I've got the puck and it's game time, I got to go for it. I mean, if there's time to make a pass real fast to someone who, needs a confidence boost on the team or whatever, has been in a slump to make the shot, go for it. I mean, whatever. But if the game's on the line and it's a big one, you got to shoot, in my opinion. But that's the would you rather. And now I also have the past their prime Hall of Fame for today. So this is an opponent we faced a little bit ago here, as the Buffalo Sabres faced a little bit ago here. Some people want him to come back here, okay? And Dom, I just want to get your opinion on this, because I know you are not necessarily the biggest supporter of it. Has had a great career. Buffalo native Patrick Kane, okay? We played him the other day. He was whiffing left and right. He just looked old, looked slow. And they want him to come back from Buffalo. This, again, not against anything he's done in his career. He's been fantastic, right? Absolutely fantastic in his career. But, Dom, yes or no to the past his prime Hall of Fame, Patrick Kane? Buffalo native.
Yes, 100% yes.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean,
yes,
he had a 90-point
100%.
He had a 90-point season.
Yes.
He had a 90-point season last year, but that was overrated. I think everyone thought no, but I think people are seeing now he's washed. 100% washed.
Just age is getting to him, unfortunately. No credit to his ability.
As I've been saying about Patrick Kane, if he signs with the Sabres, it is for off ice. The jersey and ticket sale he's going to produce.
Development, jersey sales. Yeah, no, for sure. Alrighty. I agree. That's 2 votes. We'll have to get Mike's vote next time on Patrick Kane, but
yeah, it does have to be unanimous. But no Mike, so I am the trivia guy. Here we go. Bills. When was the last time when was the last year the Bills did not have a Pro Bowler?
It's in the 2000s, right?
Potentially.
09.
2018. So not too long ago.
I was 9.
I mean,
I was 9 years off. It was not too long ago.
Not a good year. Okay, so Dylan Cousins last night got his 30th goal of the season. Now tied. There's now 4 30-goal seasons with Cousins, Tage, Tuck, and Skinner. When was the last time the Sabres had 4 30-goal scorers in a single season?
It's either 05, 06, or 06, 07. I got to decide which one. That's the real question. I'm going to go 06, 07.
You're correct. Can you name any of the 4 players?
No, you don't put me on the spot like that. I want to say, I'm trying to think back. I wasn't like a big Sabres follower back then because I was only
Thomas Vanek had 43.
Pominville?
Yeah. Thomas Vanek had 43, Chris Drury 37, Jason Pominville 34, Danny Briere 32. Last question.
Oh, I could have gotten Pominville and Vanek easy. All right, Cook. Yeah. Last question.
Miscellaneous question. Obviously, the Frozen Four is here. So, talking a little college hockey.
Okay.
What college did Alex Tuck play for? You should know this.
Alex Tuck play for? I should know this.
You should know this.
Is it the same as his brother?
No.
No, that's Middlestats, brother. The Middlestats all played at Minnesota.
Yeah.
I should know this. He's from
Shoot out a-
Syracuse.
Shoot out a guess, and I'll give you a hint.
Shoot out a guess. I have no idea. I don't want to say something
I'll give you a
completely
hint.
off the
I'll give you a
radar.
hint. What now ex-Bill is Alex Tuck very close to? Went to the same school. This player was a meme for the Bills. You memed him.
Meme?
Yeah.
I memed him?
Yes. The certain Bills player that you memed, Alex Tuck and him went to the same college.
Who did I meme?
He called out in the combine, so it's like 5 dudes.
Matt Hawk?
No. You just put out of college now. I give you like the biggest hint possible. You have 10 seconds.
Who did I meme? I have no idea. I can't spit
Say
out
what school. Say school.
I have no idea. My brain is just imploding right now. I have no idea.
That I was talking about, who is now a New York Giant, Tommy Sweeney.
Oh,
Tommy Sweeney and both Alex Tuck went to Boston College.
I should have known that. Actually, I think I did. I think honestly, I've
it's
heard
definitely
Tuck
been
went
said
to
on the
Boston
pod
College.
before.
It has been. Yeah. Oh, that's tough. Damn, I forgot I memed Tommy Sweeney. I'm thinking like Matt Hawk, like I could punt farther than him or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's where my head went with meme. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to do it for this edition of the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Callie, and I was joined by Dom Moss on this funky Friday. Dom, you'll probably be hearing this on Saturday. Sorry. Dom, how do you always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.